Welcome to RetroLogic. I'm Sam Wagers, back with John Cummins for another episode. It's been a while, John. How are you?
Good. I've been playing games, which is kind of new and unusual for me.
I have been playing fewer games, which I guess is new and unusual for me, but yeah, lots of other things in life going on. I started a new job, going back to school, moving out of my house, stuff. Life. Yeah, it happens. But, I'm happy to be here as often as I can be. So, yeah, it's back in the swing of things, back on the podcast. But of course, RetroLogic is not just a podcast. It is a whole community of retro gamers. We have an active, friendly, and free Discord with giveaways, contests, and a whole family of retro podcasts such as RetroGroove, Filmlogic, On Topic Retro, and you can find all that on our Discord. All that stuff gets posted up. I think the website is back, but last time I tried to log into it, I think we might still be having issues.
Yeah, I think so too. I thought we had it fixed, and then whenever I went to check the link last, it was down again. So I'll probably give it Dan after this and see what we can do.
Well, yeah, we'll have to, light the towers and call for aid, I guess. But yeah, the website will return. And in the meantime, hop on Discord and you can find all of those topics for all those shows and find out what's happening. And speaking of those other shows, John, what's new with On Topic Retro? I hear we have a Spanky's Quest Retro Rewind.
We do. Up. So we just finished up. What was it? Contra, Hardcore, and we've moved to Spanky's Quest, and this one's also going to be just a high score attack type. Whoever submits the highest score, either through the finish of a game or just however far they get. I think it calculates it as you go. Spanky's Quest is a unique game. I don't think I've ever played anything like Spanky's Quest.
I don't think you'll ever play anything like Spanky's Quest again.
I don't think so either. I don't think anyone's in the market for making games like this anymore. But it's simple and fun.
It's actually it's kind of weird because to me it feels like a single screen platformer, kind of like a Donkey Kong.
Yeah,
but it does scroll, so it's not exactly.
It's more like Mario.
I guess sort of like Donkey Kong 94, yeah, or Donkey Kong 94. Because that scrolls too, I believe. That has some slightly bigger stages.
I think it does. It still tries to stay to one screen the best it can. Mm-hmm. This one, there's some levels that are... I haven't finished it yet, but I made it... I think I'm in world 3 or 4. And I made it to this level that you could just fall continuously.
Mm-hmm.
You can just fall through the floor and then... It just keeps scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, but it's really on a loop. So that kind of is throwing me off. But yeah, no, it's a fun game, and I hope to see some good participation for this one. And hopefully we'll get some community members that are interested enough to do a show on it, and we can continue doing that.
I've got to make that one. I love Spanky's Quest. I champion Spanky's Quest whenever I will. I feel kind of passionately about it because it's one of those games that got added to NSO and got skewered for not being, the games people wanted instead. And I just want to encourage people to give it a try because it's quite a lot of fun. It's it's those Natsume platformers, man. They have a different vibe to them.
Have you played the Game Boy version?
I have not. It's actually a completely different game.
Okay,
same concept, but it is. Yeah, it was actually a separate dev team that made the Game Boy game.
So I own,
but it is. You're still a monkey that bounces a bubble that
turns into
does different attacks based on how many times it bounces.
So that's one that I picked
up. But the levels are different
from a limited run on Game Boy, but I still have mine in the box right now.
But I have not played the Game Boy game, no.
I'll have to check that out here at some point. The other thing we have is the Zelda Oracle games. We'll be doing continuing the Becoming the Hero series. Hopefully, I'm going to try to record that in a couple days. Hopefully, so did you want to be on that one?
I might not be able to make that one. I never did finish Oracle of Ages, let alone Seasons.
Okay.
I got most of the way through Ages, but I kind of just stopped.
I finished Ages, and I'm halfway through Seasons, but I get the gist enough that we're going to have a good time. So hopefully I can get the band together, right, and we'll talk some Oracle games here real quick.
Well, as for the rest of the Retro Podcast family, Filmlogic has an episode about Nimona and Francis Ford Coppola. RetroGroove has just put out, I think it was just last week, a episode on top sibling bands by decade.
Ooh.
So you can go check those out over on wherever podcasts are found, or you can find links to those in the Discord as well. We also have a word from our friend Dan, not Dan Caparello, different Dan, about retro protection that you have for us, John. So take it away.
Yeah, so just real quick, I had put in an order. I got referred to retro protection at videogameboxprotectors.com. And I bought a bunch of box protectors. I think I bought like 15 or 16 different sizes and different things. I finally got all the boxes, the games that I had into them. It took a little bit, but I had this idea after I bought them. I was like, I'm just going to reach out and see if the guy that runs this wants to come on the show to talk a little bit about what's going on over there and the company, and just, kind of promote what's going on. Cause it's actually it's a really unique thing. And it's cool to be able to have a custom sized box protectors for your boxes. Like I said, I think I just got like 10 or 13 different varieties of sizes that fit everything from like big box NES or SNES to some boxed Wii U games that I had, Skyward Sword. I think I bought some for Kid Icarus Uprising and Metroid Samus Returns. I bought box protectors for those. So yeah, they offer so many different things. But sadly, when I reached out to Dan, he's apparently not much of a interview so he kind of kindly declined our invitation, but he did send me an email kind of describing a little bit about how he got into making box protectors. And he told me that he about 12 or 13 years ago, when he was getting back into collecting, he likes to collect NES games. He reached out and tried to buy some from this company on eBay, but I guess that the guy that was selling them on eBay had kind of fell off and didn't ship any of the orders. So he decided that he was going to kind of look into doing his own thing and started Retro Protection. So he's been doing this for 12 years now, and I'm sure that they're very very well versed and can help out any way they can if you got boxes that need protection. So I decided, instead of having him on the podcast, I would just kind of read through his email and kind of explain what's going on and promote him a little bit. And that's what I have for that. Definitely go check them out if you got some boxes that you want protection for, because they're very well priced and pretty easy to assemble, like get them worked into shape and everything, and they work pretty good. I've got no problems.
All right. Well, that's Retro Protection, so check it out. But until then, it's time for some Prices Retro. What do you say,
Let's
John?
do it.
If this is your first time playing Price is Retro, here's how we play. I am going to list off 4 or 5 games, and everyone has to guess how much the lot is worth in total. Whoever is closest to the actual value wins the round. Everyone has a list. Everyone guesses on each other's list. Of course, it's just the 2 of us, so we both get 1 guess. And whoever guesses closer wins. I believe you have a list ready for us, John.
I do.
Fire away.
All right. Let's see. Let me make my list just a tiny bit bigger. There we go. So I have an unusual 5-game list. I don't remember the last time I made a 5-game list. And these are all games that have a maze-style dungeon crawling aspect.
Okay.
Most of them are from the same series that I've been looking at because I happened upon one complete in box, I think last year, and I haven't messed around with it, but I started playing some on my Retroid, going back through the history of the series. The first game here is Wizardry, Tale of the Forsaken Land for the PS2. Complete in box on this one. The second game is Wizardry 5, Heart of the Maelstrom for Super Nintendo, loose. The third game is Wizardry Knight of Diamonds, the second scenario for the NES, loose. The fourth game is just the original Wizardry, Proving Grounds of the Mad Overlord for the NES, loose. And then the last game is Phantasy Star for the Sega Master System, loose. Which is a game that kind of reminded me of these, so I threw it in there.
Okay. I'm going to guess just a flat 200.
Okay. Well, you're pretty close. The total of this lot is 191.61.
Oh, okay. When did I get so good at this game? I remember being like way low every time.
Maybe I'm becoming.
I think the prices went down.
Prices
and
went
we
down
ran out. We ran out of the
style.
like absurdly expensive games to put on our lists. So
yeah, this would have been a lot more expensive if I hadn't gone loose with everything. But
there's a reason I buy mostly loose games. When it saves me money.
I'll do a quick rundown. The first game, Wizardry Tale of the Forsaken Land for PS2, complete in box. $52.46. Wizardry 5, Heart of the Maelstrom for Super Nintendo, loose, $16.90. Wizardry Knight of Diamonds, the second scenario. This is the second game on NES. Loose is $35.13. And Wizardry Proving Grounds of the Mad Overlord for the NES. Loose, $15.12. And last but not least, Phantasy Star for the Sega Master System, loose, is $72. It's one I'm still trying to get a hold of.
Yeah, actually, I wasn't sure about that one. But I
It's
guess high on the others, so it made up for being low on that one. Master System games don't tend to be very expensive, but yeah, I figured if
the handful.
I figured Phantasy Star would be among the few. It's those RPGs, man. Especially RPGs before RPGs got popular.
Yeah, the other kind of high dollar one, I do have, and that's Golvelius,
yeah. I've actually thought about trying to find that at one point.
I got lucky and I bought a complete copy from Eric when he was dumping his Master System collection.
Yep, I own 3 Master System games. So, Ugh. And Penguin Land is the best one.
Yeah, I need to get Penguin Land. It's on the list.
It's great. I love Penguin Land. It's my favorite Master System game, as a matter of fact. Not that says much out of the 3, but, all right, my list. I'll just run right through it. I've got Mindell Palace for the NES, complete in box. Drill Dozer for the Game Boy Advance, complete in box. Geiger Wrecker Alt for the PlayStation 4, complete in box. And Mario and Wario, the mouse set for the Super Famicom, complete in box. So in honor of the re-release, sort of sequel, new release of Pocket Card Jockey, these are all games developed by Game Freak that aren't Pokemon.
Nice. I was kind of thinking that's where we're headed. You could have put what is it? Is it Polestar or what's the
Pulseman?
The Sega Pulseman.
Yeah. I mean, so the thing with Pulseman though is in the US. I mean, I put Mario and Wario on here anyway. In the US, it only released via Sega Channel, I believe.
Yeah.
And NSO now, but there was no physical North American release of Pulseman.
That was Game Freak, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was Game Freak. And they're all complete in box because you got to catch them all.
That's right. What was that third game again?
Geiger Wrecker Alt for the PlayStation 4. Also complete.
Okay. Let's do... I'm thinking 415.
415. You're pretty close, but not close enough, I believe. The total value is $367.14. So Mendel Palace for the NES, $79.04. Drill Dozer for the GBA, $197.85. Geiger Wrecker Alt for the PlayStation 4, $20.50. And Mario and Wario mouse set for the Super Famicom, $69.75.
Yeah, I went low on that one, or high on that one.
High on the mouse set.
I thought it was going to be more. Yeah, I thought it was going to be more than that. Man, I might have to pick one of those up if that's...
It's not the worst way to get a Super Nintendo mouse, I think. At this point.
I have Mario Paint.
Yeah.
I have big box Mario Paint with the guide and everything.
Mario and Wario is very cheap. And
I have it. Yeah. I have it loose.
Okay. And it's all in English too. It's a very nice pickup if you have any way to play any sort of region free device like an aftermarket, like an analog.
Do you have a mouse?
I have a mouse. Yep, I have an original mouse that came with Mario Paint.
Yeah, I was gonna say I played it with my mouse on the Super. What is it? The analog Super NT.
Super NT. Yep, that's what I did too. Gosh, it was a while ago. It was for Nintendo Dad's Extra Life. I streamed Mario and Wario during my... It wasn't a full 24-hour, but I took like a 9-hour shift or so. And that was one of the games I played. And it was quite a thing going back to using a mouse with the actual ball in it that had seen better days too at that.
So... Did they have those mice whenever you were in school?
Yeah, they did.
Still, yeah. Did you guys have the procedure at the start of every keyboarding class where you take the ball out, clean it with a wipe or whatever, and put it back in?
Yep. I don't think we ever.
Kids.
I don't know if we ever did that actually.
Kids these days. Oh yeah, we had headphones.
Kids these days don't even learn keyboarding. Is the sad thing?
Yeah, I know.
They're used to typing on phones. Sound like such a grumpy old man though saying that. But.
Yeah, I guess at least talking to my brother about it. He's 10 years older than me, and he's like, when I was in high school, we had typewriting class, and I'm like, okay, you win.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was typing, like it wasn't, keyboarding. They had a typewriter that they would do their papers and stuff on for that hour. Which is funny.
Yeah, stuff has changed pretty rapidly when it comes to some of that. So,
oh yeah,
it's interesting to think about.
I don't even think my kids knew that there were mice that had a little trackball in them.
Yep. Well, that is it for Prices Retro. So I've chalked up another win. I think I'm up by 2 now. I don't
I
know if
think you are, yeah.
When do we roll the season over? Can you still catch me?
I don't know. You've won 3 in a row.
Well, we need to record more episodes, I guess.
We do. Let me see where we're at. Okay. Looks like... Yeah, you're up by 2 now.
Up by 2.
Depending on when we close out the season. Again, I need to look back and see historically when we've closed the season. I guess I could just look at the win log. When did we close season 2? Oh, wow. Yeah, we closed season 2 in September of 22. And we still haven't put as many episodes into season 3 in almost 2 years.
No, because we used to record every week.
Well, I think that we started recording every other week in season 2.
In season 2, but not at the start of it, did we? Or was that the start? It's all a blur.
Yeah, no, it's almost the start of season 2.
Okay.
Because we did, here's one that's 10:11 and then 10:25. Those are the first, that was episode 2 and episode 3. It would make sense
for when to make that shift, yeah.
Man, can you believe we've been every other week since 21?
I can't even believe we've been doing it since 21.
Oh, we've been doing it since 20.
Yeah. Well, maybe you have. I was a latecomer. It was episode 34 was when I started. I remember because I just missed episode 33, and I thought that would be very appropriate. But
yep. Yeah, no, that means you started on June 1st, 21. So almost 3 years ago. We're getting closer.
Ever closer.
Yeah, we're gonna have to draw a line in here and end the season and start a fresh season here at some point soon. I don't think we're gonna quite make it to the number of episodes.
Right.
Our first one, first season was 51 episodes. And then the second one dropped off we only had 43 episodes, I think. Not even 43. It's like 30 something episodes. So I think so far for this season, we're at about 20 episodes.
Yeah, this is episode 111 overall, unless I lost count.
Yeah. Nope, we're at 111. So yeah, we might have to, I still keep talking to Dan, trying to get him back in gear to come back on. Keep saying he wants to, so we'll see. We
have to complete the Triforce.
We do. That's when the magic happens. Yep. We're keeping.
I don't know what two pieces of the Triforce you and I are, but Dan is the holder of the Triforce of beards.
We're courage and wisdom, and we need power.
There we go. The power.
We need the power.
Playing with power. That's what Dan's doing.
Yeah. And he's playing with cars is what it sounded like.
Oh, yeah. Car trouble. Discord. Motor Logic. Another channel on the Discord.
Yes.
Well, do you have a trivia card for us before we move into our show
I'm trying
topic? Or for me, because I don't think you can answer the trivia that you're reading. That would be very uneventful.
All right. Yep, here's a new one. We haven't done this one yet. What is the name of the meat processing factory where Abe is kept as a slave in the 90s classic Oddworld, Abe's Odyssey?
Wow. Oddworld.
This is a good one.
I have never played Oddworld. What's a good name for a meat processing factory? I can't believe it's not chicken.
Yeah. That's called Rupture Farms.
Rupture Farms. Yeah, I never would have guessed that.
Nope. That's why I said that. Okay. Which popular video game series is known as Biohazard in Japan?
Ooh. Biohazard. I feel like I know this, but I don't.
I thought you would know this pretty easy.
But I don't.
You gotta guess anything you think.
I'm drawing a blank. Biohazard.
Think viruses.
Dr. Mario. No, it's not Dr. Mario.
Not those viruses. If I give you the answer, you're going to feel dumb.
I probably will. I got nothing. Is it Dr.
Right.
Mario?
Nope.
Okay.
It's Resident Evil.
Resident Evil. Okay. Isn't that a subtitle of a Resident Evil game?
No.
Okay.
That's what it's called in Japan.
I don't play Resident Evil either. Okay.
Yeah, but I figured you would at least seen it,
Biohazard. Okay. Now I know.
Yep.
Now I know.
Yep. It's kind of an odd one, but yeah, Biohazard. I guess it's because of the
it makes sense given what
of
Resident
getting
Evil's
infected.
about. Yeah, it's about
things
that infect people and make them zombies or something. I don't really know.
That's right.
All right, that's it, right? That's the two questions.
That's it.
Struck out.
2 questions.
Struck out. Two strikes.
Yeah, that was a hard.
It's a hard.
We need a Dan for that card.
Yeah, that's one of those. Trivia is tough though, because sometimes it's just a game you haven't played, and it's okay.
Yeah, but I feel like the balance of these ones have been tipping towards the way too easy. Like anyone that plays video games should know most.
Well, to be fair, a lot of people who play video games actually play Resident Evil. I don't know about
it's probably not as many as you think.
Yeah, I mean it's not. Yeah, it's not Mario Kart.
I was listening to I think it's the Collector Quest. It's a podcast that Zach has me on right now. Mm-hmm. And they were talking about how there is a, certain percentage of gaming population that there's a pretty good sized gaming population, but a lot of them are playing World of Warcraft solely or Call of Duty.
Oh yeah,
we're a very small percentage of gamers that actually play a lot of different varieties.
You've got the people who just play maybe Call of Duty, maybe Fortnite, maybe the latest FIFA, and that's it.
Yeah, or Madden or something like that. But yeah, I guess they put out a poll. Somebody did, and there's a certain percentage of the Gen Z population that play World of Warcraft, and it's the only game they play. If they play that game, that's it. Which I could see that. That's kind of that's a second life.
Yeah, that'll take up all your free time. It's that's how it goes. Let alone me trying to explain something like Pocket Card Jockey to people.
Yeah.
So.
All right, we ready to take a break and come back?
We'll come back for our show topic, which is going to be 25-year anniversary of Super Smash Brothers. So stay tuned. Welcome back, and this year, 2024, is the 25-year anniversary of the original Super Smash Bros. For the Nintendo 64. Released January 21st in Japan of 1999, January 21st, 1999 in Japan, April 26th of the same year in North America, and November 19th of the same year in Europe. began development as Dragon King, the fighting game, with the Nintendo characters added later.
Could you imagine if this didn't get the green light for Nintendo characters to be added to
Well,
it?
and that's the interesting
And it
thing,
just
right?
came out as Dragon King.
Sakurai basically did it without asking. It was very much a ask for forgiveness, not for permission kind of thing.
Yeah.
Which probably was correct because Nintendo has, they're protective of their characters, right? I even go back to, we were talking about some of those canceled games, and the Mario Strikers team wanted to make like a Mario like pro wrestling game, and it got
volleyball
axed.
aspects.
Well, and it got like axed
Yeah.
because they're like, yeah, we don't want to make a game where Mario can chokeslam Princess Peach. That's not a good look. And yet Smash Bros exists, right?
Yeah, but Smash Bros is very less graphic.
It is.
Than a wrestling game would be.
It's what they call oh gosh, what's the ESRB label on it say? I think it's like comic mischief, cartoon violence, and comic mischief.
Cartoon.
Yep. Yeah. But yeah, it really, and that kind of flows into the first sort of bullet point I put in is some of the marketing around the original release. We're focused on the 64 game, and I think that the first thing that comes to my mind is that Happy Together commercial of the people in the suits of Mario, Pikachu, Yoshi, and Donkey Kong. Where that song is playing and they're like sort of like frolicking in a field, and then they all just start wailing on each other. So they definitely leaned into the irony, I guess, of these family-friendly characters turning violent against one another. I don't know if you have any, particular memories about that or things you want to add about that.
No, and I'm trying to remember. I remember playing this game for the first time, and I remember I don't think that I had seen the commercials until after I'd played the game. And I remember not knowing anything about this game because I guess really at the time I wasn't really that focused on. Like the only way you would know is if you're reading Nintendo Power or whatever.
Oh, I was.
I didn't have a subscription at the time. I think my subscription had lapsed and I wasn't reading as much. And I remember going to my cousin's house and he had rented this game and I had no clue. Like I was like, what is this? And we started playing and next thing I know, like we played all night and played the next day. And then, you got 3-day rentals, so you got to make the most of it. So we played like all 3 days, like as much as we could. And I remember the commercials, but I'm almost 100% sure that I did not see the commercials until afterwards. So this game came out of nowhere and was like a surprise hit for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's interesting. I want to comment on that, but there was also this event called Slamfest 99, which actually it was the same suits they used for filming that commercial. There is to my knowledge, no existing footage of this event, which is a real shame.
There is existing footage. There's no real official footage.
Right.
It's like the stuff that's out there is all stuff that was recorded by somebody in the crowd, or there's clips. And in fact, there's a very interesting like group of people that are trying to like put the whole thing together and dig out all the stuff. And I think Bozo from our community is part of that group. And
awesome.
I had him on whenever we talked extensively about the original Super Smash Brothers, and he went into quite a bit of detail about Slamfest 99 and how interesting it is. And it's almost like Nintendo tried to bury this thing like it never happened. It's almost like a Virtual Boy type situation.
Yeah, a little bit. It goes into the Nintendo memory hole.
Yeah.
But it's
in the vault. It's not supposed to come back out.
It's the old shame. But you mentioned Nintendo Power, and I can remember because it got quite a bit of coverage in Nintendo Power. I can
Oh
remember
yeah,
they had a they outlined all the characters' moves in Nintendo Power. So you before the game even came out, I knew what Mario's B move, what Mario's B down, B up move. There were no side specials yet that came in Melee, no final smashes yet. But
yep.
they outlined all the special moves, and I think even explained like what smash attacks were and things. And I remember just reading about it in Nintendo Power, showing it to my brothers, and we were all like so excited for it. We immediately like formed a pact to pool our allowance so that we could buy it as soon as it came out, because we're like, oh, like yeah, like it comes out in 2 months. I can't afford it, but if we all put our allowance, because we all got like $5 a week allowance.
Yeah.
So if we all put our allowance together, we can buy it when it comes
Our
out.
allowance combined.
Yeah, and it was just it was a whole moment. We were unified in our pursuit of that, and it did not disappoint. When it came out, and it really is. I guess at least to my memory, my personal experience, like Smash Bros has always been the king of hype. It is. I mean, there's a reason Nintendo puts those character announcement stingers at the end of their directs, right? There's a reason it had the Smash Dojo website dedicated to that. And I remember checking that web page every day, setting it as my homepage, because that's a thing people used to do, set a web page as your homepage. The Smash Dojo was my homepage. All the way out leading up to Brawl's release, and just that is part, I think, of the Smash Bros. Legacy, and a lot of it is, the crossovers always generate a lot of press. They always get people interested. They always get fans interested, I should say. If you're not a fan, maybe you're not as interested. Maybe you're just confused. But yeah, anything else come to mind in terms of just the lead up to the game?
No, like I said, it kind of hit me by surprise. I think, I definitely had some years where I didn't subscribe to Nintendo Power, and I definitely wouldn't have been buying the magazines without a subscription because, back in the day.
Oh, see,
like,
no, what you had to do is what we did. I've explained this before. You find a stack of Super Mario 64 soundtracks, and they all came with a free year subscription to Nintendo Power, and they were being sold at our local Meijer for like $5 each. That's why we had Nintendo Power as long as we did.
Oh man, yeah, no, that would have been great. I didn't even get the Super Mario 64 soundtrack.
Oh, there you go.
I'm missing that.
We had multiple copies of it in my house growing up, just because it was cheaper than actually subscribing to Nintendo Power.
Yeah, because I remember. Well, I mean, Nintendo Power was like $20 for the year, but if you were to buy the magazines individually, they were like $5 or $6 a piece. So if I wasn't subscribed, I wasn't buying the magazines. That's for sure.
Yep.
So I think that's kind of where this kind of surprised me, because it must have been like an off year.
Well, yeah, and it's funny how that hits too, because like, I've mentioned before, like the GameCube was a bit of a gap for me, because that's when we stopped. Our supply of Mario 64 soundtracks ran out, and they weren't selling them anymore, of course, by then. And it was also, a point at which my brothers lost some. They didn't entirely lose interest in Nintendo, but they'd sort of lost interest in Nintendo. A little bit more into the PlayStation side of things. We got a PS2, and so that's why a lot of the GameCube era stuff missed me. I just wasn't aware of it for the same reason.
Yeah, that's what I think. At this time, I might have had like a EGM subscription or something like that instead, and those magazines definitely were not as keen on showing Nintendo stuff.
Of course, by the Wii era, I was getting my information from the internet, but there was a time when you got information from magazines. Strange to think about, huh?
Well, in 99 or 98, leading up to this game coming out in 99, I would have just got this would have been like my second or third computer. First computer being a Commodore, but I think we had a computer that had Windows 95. I don't know if we had internet though. So definitely this we might not have had
We
internet
definitely didn't
until
have high
right around
speed
this time.
internet, and we had
Well,
one family computer in the home, not a Famicom, but a computer shared by the
yeah.
family. Um,
Well, in '98 there was no high speed
yeah,
internet. Not yet. Everything was dial up.
but I think the other thing that really comes to mind about Smash Bros is its status, or still debated in some ways, status as a fighting game, and sort of the legacy it has for, I think, bringing fighting games to a wider audience. I would argue there's a lot of people would say Smash Bros isn't a fighting game; it's a party game, or it's something different entirely.
But those are the people that haven't tried to play it competitively.
Well, it goes beyond that. I think it comes down to, because I think you can acknowledge like it's definitely different from other fighting games,
Oh yeah,
and even by a
it's a
stronger
different
degree,
kind of fighting
but
game.
even by a stronger degree than, say, you've got your 2D fighters like Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, King of Fighters, um, Guilty Gear, whatever, and you've got your 3D fighters like your Virtua Fighter, your Tekken, your Dead or Alive, but there's not quite the same. Most people will acknowledge those as part of the bigger genre of fighting games readily, even if they're like, okay, yeah, like I definitely prefer this one over the other. Smash has, for whatever reason, and I don't know if it comes to just the history of the Smash Bros scene kind of doing their own thing. And this all really, I mean, Smash 64 didn't really have as much the tournament scene, especially when it released. A lot of that was almost retroactive when people got in from Melee.
Yeah, Melee is kind of what brought all that about.
But, Smash tournaments pretty much had to be their own events. And so they just never got used to sharing space, and other fighting games were really used to sharing space with them up until the point it was so popular it couldn't be ignored. And then, it's one of the main events at Evo, and it's actually drawing attention away from the others, and you have a whole kind of conflict there.
Yeah.
I think.
I mean, at its core concept, it's a fighting game. It can be played 1v1 in a similar manner. Like you're still competing to reduce health points, or in this
well, no health bars, which is part of the.
Well, no, but you have a percentage
Yes.
that is where your health bar is, and it works in reverse, but still.
And really,
each move still reduces a set amount of, or produces a set amount of damage, which reduces or adds to your amount of percent that you have attached to your character. So that still works in the same. You can still calculate it out the same way. There's people that will calculate out how much damage needs to be done to get a player to KO or whatever, which is something that happens in fighting games.
Well, that's interesting though, because in Smash, that's also variable based on how far you are from the blast zone of the stage or the edge of the stage, depending. Yeah. There's actually a lot more variables in Smash, but I do think the percent damage feature is probably its greatest innovation, because instead of a health bar, you have this percentage. And the higher your percentage, the greater your knockback when you get hit, which interacts very interestingly with the idea of combos. And Smash 64, combos are actually, if you've seen Smash 64 played at a high level, combos can actually be like super broken. Now, when I was playing this at the age of 7, that was not really something I knew how to do. But it's interesting, especially as the series evolved. You have these situations where 0% combos are very reliable, but as you get to the higher percentages, you cannot do true combos anymore, because you're knocking the person too far away to hit a follow-up attack before they have a chance to input something. So that's just such an interesting mechanic, where there's a kind of change when things are getting down to the wire, where you cannot default to this script, this thing you practiced, right? Which I think is actually very exciting in a competitive context. But the other thing is, of course,
add some variety.
The other thing, of course, is the simple inputs. This directional, just a direction and a button for special moves. The smash attack requiring the flick of the control stick. But other than that, compared to something like Street Fighter, sometimes that's one of those things. If you play a lot of fighting games with those inputs, you forget how hard they are to do for a beginner. Because I can remember not being able to do, not being able to just do a Shoryuken on command in Street Fighter, right?
Yeah.
I think we're all there at some point. You have to learn it. And Smash really takes that out of it. Now, make no mistake, Smash Bros., especially as a series, has advanced techs that are super hard to input. Way harder, I would suggest, even than all but the most frame perfect combos in other fighting games. But the basic, how do I do this move, is so much easier, and that makes it more approachable.
Yeah. Agreed. I mean, the simple inputs are what makes it kind of more adaptable to the party scene, I guess. I think that's what separates... To me, it's not that Smash is not meeting the concept of a fighting game. It's the fighting games are lacking the ability to be a party game. Smash has the ability to be both. It kind of sits, in its own sphere that allows it to be playable by everyone and not be frustrating a lot of times. Where fighting games, if you can't produce any of the combos
if you're button
moves,
mashing,
it's frustrating. You're not going to. Yeah, you're not.
I mean, there's some people who have fun button mashing in fighters, but I was never one of them. I just got frustrated.
Yeah, probably not. Probably not as fun as playing Smash with somebody, and especially if you turn items on, it totally just cleans the slate. It doesn't matter how good you are if you're trying to dodge things.
It matters. Trust me, it matters.
I mean, it works to even the playing field out more.
But items can only do so much.
Yeah, but it gives a chance,
Mm-hmm.
Or if you're playing Mortal Kombat, someone's just absolutely wrecking you. There's no saving you in any form or fashion there,
right?
Unless you get into handicaps and all that stuff, but that's also in Smash.
Yeah, the closest point of comparison, I would say, for games that came out prior to Smash Bros. Especially. The other one that comes to mind for me, I think, is Power Stone, which has kind of a similar thing going on. Though even then, the original Power Stone was only a 2-player game. You needed Power Stone 2 for 4 players, right? And that came out after.
That's what I was going to say.
But the main one that I can think of as a point of comparison before would be Sugoi Hebereke. I don't know if you've ever played that.
No, Power Stone actually came out same time.
Same time.
Well, okay. It came out a month later in Japan and a month earlier in North America. There you
go. Shorter time to localize, I guess.
In arcades,
yeah.
And then Dreamcast came out the month afterwards on.
But I do think even 1v1, because you have a larger arena that you're kind of encouraged to move around with item drops, especially the Power Stones. It sort of has some of that same approach, I think. But yeah, still very different as to the nuts and bolts of mechanics, and because it actually is,
it's also kind of more top down.
Yeah, it's a 3D space with a kind of isometric perspective, not this 2D plane that Smash Bros is, which is also interesting. But yeah, the one that I would compare it to the most maybe would be Sugoi Hebereke for the Super Famicom. You ever played that? Okay, it is on NSO.
Sounds cool.
You need the Japanese Super Famicom app, but it is there.
Okay.
And there will be, text you can't read. But I've played it. It's actually pretty fun, and it allowed 4 players with the multi-tap. And it's kind of but it is again actually more of a top-down kind of thing. So you can kind of picture pretty simple-ish combat, sort of like you would see in like a Zelda game or like an action RPG of that type, like a Final Fantasy adventure kind of thing. But these, it was part of the Hebe series, which was like Sunsoft's weird. It was like a whole thing, and like every game was very different, but it featured this same cast of characters, and they do have different special moves, and different things they can do. So it's not just like one attack. But yeah, in terms of being a kind of 4-player free-for-all and a little bit more party game-ish, I think it comes close. It kind of does give me some of the impressions of like what would the same idea have maybe resulted in the hands of somebody different. One other game that I have also not released in North America that I have thought of in comparison is Joy Mech Fight, simply because it is also a very simple input fighting game, where you only have 2 buttons because it's a Famicom, an NES game, and you have different special moves that are just... there are some actually like quarter circle type inputs or half circle type inputs, but it's pretty generous in allowing you to input them. So, and some characters, everything's just a direction and a button, just one direction, one button. So, a little bit easier to learn, I think.
The other aspect of this too, even starting with the original game, was this kind of idea of Smash being a museum of Nintendo, of kind of a virtual museum in some aspects. Whether collecting statues or trophies or whatever. I believe in the original game, it's more or less that the characters are made to be like kind of like stuffed animals or action figures.
Yeah, that was definitely a change that happened early in the series, from the depicting them as these like dolls that come to life to the trophies, which is what they stuck with, because I guess it just didn't quite resonate with people.
The trophies lend more to the collectability. You don't have to probably easier to model in the end.
They're modeled just with the same in-game assets. But even then, that's why we got spirits in the last one, was there were so many they couldn't put all those models in the game, so they just did just did basically screenshots.
Just put the artwork in there.
It really is. That's part of the wider Smash legacy, I think. Of course, the roster for the initial game was not quite as nearly as daunting as something like Smash Ultimate.
12.
But even then, I think you do have this idea of... I think for me, it really crystallized seeing Nintendo as a whole as a brand. Because otherwise, I wasn't really paying much attention. But like seeing all these characters together... I mean, maybe I was used to seeing, Mario, Donkey Kong, and Yoshi together in, say, Mario Kart or Mario Party.
Yeah.
But some of these characters I wasn't at all familiar with when the game came out.
A lot of people got brought to Fire Emblem, dude.
Well, that would be Melee. Melee introduced Roy and Marth to the West. To everyone outside Japan. That was the first time anybody'd seen Roy or Marth, unless you were following import games.
This game series
because that actually preceded the release of Fire Emblem for the GBA. Which also doesn't even have Roy and Marth in them. So, but that was the next Fire Emblem game.
Interesting choice.
Well, these were so kind of true to fashion. Marth is the OG. He's the OG main character, And Roy was the main character of the 6th game, which came out in Japan prior to Melee. So he was the most current at the time, right? And you can, in Fire Emblem 7, play as Ellawood, who is Roy's father. So he's not Roy, which people who don't play the series might mistake him for Roy because he looks about the same. But yeah, that's just kind of a sidetrack on that. So
yeah, and I mean the series would come to be even more just like a celebration of games in general, because by the time you get to the Wii, now you have characters that are not even Nintendo characters being put in there.
But like in my case, I was not at all familiar with F-Zero. I just there are some Nintendo franchises I missed the boat on. F-Zero is one of them. Metroid is another, though I will say I was familiar with the character of Samus Aran for, of all things, from Nintendo Power Captain N comics. But that's just because I happened to have a hardcover of those that featured, a Metroid issue, a couple Metroid issues, actually.
Well, there's probably a large percentage of early Smash players that might not even put together the fact that Captain Falcon was an F-Zero character.
That's also very possible.
Playing F-Zero,
especially if you haven't played F-Zero X
Nintendo.
yet.
Yeah, if you're playing F-Zero on Super Nintendo, like you wouldn't even showcase them, all that much as a character on there.
To a lot of people still, what defines Captain Falcon as his character is not the F-Zero games, it is Smash Bros. And who can blame them? I mean, the Falcon Punch is iconic, right? I mean, that was really a stroke of genius. And I think half of the demand for a revival of F-Zero, I guess we got F-Zero 99. I don't know if we can say it's back, if it's alive again yet. It's sort of a weird edge case. But I think some of the demand for F-Zero, some of the reason people get into F-Zero these days is because of Captain Falcon's appearance in Smash Bros. He's been there since the beginning. You could say the same about Ness. I was one of the weirdos who actually knew who Ness was on immediate sight. I recognized him because I grew up with Earthbound, but that is the exception, not the rule.
Who's this kid with the baseball bat?
Exactly. Those were both secret characters, for what it's worth.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but so was Luigi.
Yeah.
And then the other one was Jigglypuff, which was really weird because out of all the Pokemon you could choose.
Well, considering though that Jigglypuff had a prominent role in the anime, it makes more sense if you were following Pokemon at the time.
Yeah, but so did Psyduck.
Sure. Psyduck would have been awesome. Can you imagine?
That's what I'm saying. Like, there were so many
the other reason Jigglypuff was chosen was probably because they could
simple.
Well, because they could model Jigglypuff on Kirby. They could just reuse Kirby's model.
And that's kind of what they did in this game. So like the secret characters in this game were really very tightly modeled after a character that already existed.
Jigglypuff and Luigi were, but Captain Falcon and Ness were entirely unique.
Yeah, I still think that a portion of Captain Falcon in this game was still Samus.
That's that's possible. Because they do share a few animations as well. Like the up tilt.
That's what I'm saying. I think Ness would have been the only one that was just 100% from scratch.
Yeah.
And that would change. Like after this game is, the rest of the games in the series would just make leaps and bounds on character and all that stuff. So,
but I mean, that's such a huge thing, and I think for its lasting legacy, and I think Nintendo has really latched on to that, this is a way to introduce people who are just kind of Nintendo fans to specific Nintendo series. And it's what got me to play Fire Emblem. It's what introduced everybody outside Japan to Fire Emblem once again. So anybody who picked up Fire Emblem for the Game Boy Advance or a later game like Radiant Dawn, like I eventually did, did so thinking, oh, this is where those guys from Smash Bros come from.
Yeah. We have no idea what the game plays like, but
It has swords in it, apparently. I like swords. And that's really, I mean, that's why you see it as, and I think that's why it's going to remain. I mean, we don't know what the future holds for Smash, but it's such a good marketing vehicle for Nintendo. It's such a big draw for people that I think it has to continue somehow. I don't know if they can keep adding characters, but it's the centerpiece of their brand, you know, and especially in this age where everybody's obsessed with multiverse. I think a humble crossover is still the way to go, but all the same, you know.
Could you imagine if they do like a multiverse Smash Bros. Where like you have like classic versions of the fighters fighting the newer ones, and it would be crazy.
I don't know about that, but Smash 64 with well, I guess that's a question too. If you were picking the roster, you mentioned Jigglypuff, but any surprises from that roster stand out to you, or any omissions? If you had to fill only 12 characters, would you pick the same 12?
Let's see. So you have Mario.
Yep.
You have Luigi. No Peach.
No Peach, no Bowser. Yoshi. You have Yoshi.
Donkey Kong.
You gotta have Donkey Kong.
Samus, Link.
And Fox.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't think of any other like mainline Nintendo characters that are bigger than those guys.
And as far as franchises go, though you can argue what belongs under the Mario umbrella, like to what extent is really Mario is just a Donkey Kong character, but
yeah.
like as Smash designates them, DK and Yoshi get their own logos, and they've starred in their own games. So I think it's fair to call them their own characters. It's just Mario and Luigi and Pikachu and Jigglypuff that double up on a specific franchise. Yeah. And worth noting too that those characters that double up are both secret characters. I think I'm a little bit more willing to forgive where it's like, okay, Luigi is a bonus character. You know, we could have just not had that character, but we put him in because he was easy enough to add. And hey, you got Mario, why not add Luigi?
Well, even Luigi for the most part was literally Green Mario in this game,
especially in this game.
There wasn't a whole lot.
Yeah,
there wasn't a whole lot.
He had the fireball that didn't bounce, and he had. His up B had the traits it's always had, with it having very strong startup, but very weak the rest of the move. I think his tornado worked the same as Mario's in this one. I don't know the nuances of that, and the side B didn't exist yet. And I think all his normals were the same.
So I'm saying he was basically Green Mario.
Whereas by Smash Ultimate, Luigi is almost entirely different from Mario.
Well, even by Melee.
Yeah.
By the time Melee rolls around, he earns all kinds of differences that sets him apart. So I'm saying that honestly, the biggest like jump to me is this game to Melee.
Yeah.
Everything else is kind of more refined.
I'd say in terms of more mechanics. The emphasis, I think, past Melee became how much content can we cram in, which is a lot.
They had the platform.
Which is a lot.
By the time Melee rolls around, they have the platform they want. They have the physics. Like, everything is set up. You know, all the experimenting is done.
And then they just add tripping for some reason.
Yeah.
I think for me, looking at the base roster, I'm so happy Ness was in there from the get-go. I'm so happy Captain Falcon was in there from the get-go. Probably the only one I would suggest changing is Jigglypuff. I think
Yep.
I think it makes sense to add a second Pokemon. I would probably expect Charizard. He's not my favorite, but like if you're gonna add a second Pokemon, and then you get, because like the wonder of Pokemon, right, is there's a Pokemon for everybody. But I think if you want to split them into two categories, there's Pokemon who are like really cool and kind of menacing, and there's Pokemon who are really cute. And Pikachu is cute, and Charizard is like a monster.
Yeah. That, like I said, I think Jigglypuff is just there because he is basically Kirby, but puts people to sleep. Like, I guess he had some changes, or she, whatever it is, some slight changes. But yeah, for the most part, it's Kirby. Like even the up B is the same. Never once has a Jigglypuff in the anime ever like floated like Kirby.
No,
So,
that was just based on similarities.
That's a direct palette
Well,
swap.
Jigglypuff is supposed to be a balloon, right? According to the Pokedex, and Jigglypuff weighs almost nothing. But yeah, Jigglypuff has never been capable of Kirby-like flight.
Inhaling air and floating.
I think in later games, Jigglypuff can learn moves like bounce, but never fly.
No.
But the thing is, move-wise, Jigglypuff was unique, at least. I think there are a couple normal. I think there are a couple normals shared in Smash 64. I have not played Smash 64 in a while, but
yeah, he had the same punch, the same. The only thing, his B move and his down B move were different.
Yeah, Kirby's B move is Inhale. Jigglypuff's is the Pound punch. Sing. Well, Sing is up B. Or is it in 64? Right. Is Sing mapped to that? But I think Pound is neutral B, Sing is up B, and Rest is down B.
Yeah.
Side B didn't exist yet.
B is just rock.
And then Melee replaced the neutral B with Rollout, and Pound became side B.
Yeah. Man, yeah, I forgot that up B was Sing.
Yep.
That's right. And it's funny because the whole time I was playing 64, I didn't realize that Rest actually did anything.
Yep. I think I don't realize until I was playing
Melee.
I was playing Melee, and I was really struggling with the final event match. And I like looked up. At this point, I guess we had internet. I looked up like how do you beat the final event match where you have to fight like Ganondorf, Mewtwo, and Giga Bowser all on Final Destination.
Yeah.
And they're like, just use Jigglypuff and use Rest. And I'm like, Rest? What? How's that work? It's like, no, just drop onto Giga Bowser and Rest. He's so big that it's really easy to hit him with.
Yeah.
So that's how I did it.
His hitbox for Rest is gigantic. Oh, man. Yeah, no, these games are amazing. And there's no end to the amount of content they can add. I have a feeling that they're probably already working on the next one. Like they have.
I mean, if you want to make a Switch 2 and you want to convince people to drop their Switch like it's yesterday's Switch trash, making an exclusive new Smash Bros. Is the way to do it. I mean,
Yep.
This is not about 64, but I remember seeing the Wii U presentation, I was in college at the time. I was streaming E3, the announcement of the Wii U, and I'm like, I don't know about this. Maybe, money's tight. I don't want to buy this. This just doesn't look like it's for me anymore. And then they get up on the stage and they say, and a new Smash Bros. Is in development for Wii U already, and I'm like, dang it, I'm gonna buy one of these.
Yeah, now you're like, I gotta have it.
Yep. There's no negotiation now. New Smash Bros. I'm sold. Of course, it didn't come out for a while, and I held out until Smash was until Smash was out. I held out. I made sure I got a Wii U when the Smash 4 demo dropped for Wii U.
It took 2 years.
Yeah. And actually the demo came out on 3DS first.
Yeah.
because the 3DS
That
game
was a
came out
weird.
first.
That was a weird ordeal.
It was
having Smash on 3DS.
It was. That was. I actually went to a. It's funny to even think about now. I went to a 3DS tournament because there was a period of time where that was the only version of the game, and it was the Wild West too. People were allowing custom moves. I had a blast.
Yeah, the 3DS one actually ran better than I expected it to run. I remember playing the demo for it first.
And Smash Run was awesome and should have been in both versions.
Yeah. It's really weird they decided.
But at the same time, yeah, like once Wii U was out, like if I was playing with other people, I was playing Wii U, and it's ultimately a multiplayer game, so yeah.
Yeah, and the 3DS didn't have the best infrastructure for internet, so you weren't playing like massive 8-player battles or anything. No, it's different. I'm definitely I mean, Smash on 3DS is kind of like a unique experience, but
well, Smash on 64 even, like multiplayer has been part of, and 4-player multiplayer, I think, has been part of the series identity from the get-go. And for me, actually, that's sort of what defines the N64, right? Like you could do multi-tap type stuff on other systems, but it's literally why my family got an N64 to a large extent and not a PlayStation, was because it was a 4-player system out of the box. And you could expect most of the games to have some kind of 4-player multiplayer support. It does actually beg the question, would Smash Bros. Have leaned so hard on that had it not debuted on the N64?
Yeah, like if they would have put it out
like on the Super Nintendo. SNES. I mean, the GameCube was the same way, I suppose. But say the N64 was like the PlayStation, where it only had 2 controller ports by default. You needed an accessory to get more.
Yeah, and I mean, I feel like Nintendo's kind of kept that same 4-player at least kind of stance going forward. Like, I don't think they've looked back since. In fact, I mean, the Switch has 8-player capability for some games.
Yeah. Even as most other systems move towards online multiplayer being the focus, I think Nintendo held on at least. Splatoon and others notwithstanding, Animal Crossing, oddly enough, has held on to commitment to local multiplayer, and I've always kind of respected them for that.
Yeah. So do you think we'll be getting a new entry in the series?
Oh, eventually. It's just a matter of when.
So if we think about it, what's the amount of time that's usually between the games? So we had 99.
Yeah, Melee was freakishly short turnaround.
20 it was
2002,
right?
I think, yeah.
3? It's either 2002 or 2003.
2000? Wait a minute. 2001. Yeah, 2001. Melee.
Oh, 2001.
Yep. It was less than a year development time. Brawl was 2008. That's 7 years. 3DS and Wii U was 2014. So that's another 6.
So 6 years.
And Ultimate was 18, so that's another 4. I think that being kind of pushed. I think Ultimate was kind of pushed up because they realized the Wii U was going away.
Well, and Ultimate was also built off of the same platform as 4.
It really, yeah. To
the extent where you don't hear it as much now, but whenever Ultimate came out, like there were a lot of people that were trying to downplay Smash for using the Wii U's.
Yeah, for being too similar.
Yeah, being too similar platform wise. So, but at the end of the day, I think it was the right choice. I think instead of trying to recreate physics and or create new physics and try to change the game as previous games have done, they were like, this works and we like it, we're going to stick with it. Because before that, every game had different physics.
Yeah.
The original Smash was drastically different than anything, and then Melee was quite a bit faster than Brawl, and then 4 tried to bring some of that speed back. And I believe Ultimate is almost identical to 4.
Yeah, the overall feel of the game, I will say, was different enough that it took me a while to adapt after playing so much of 4. I had to kind of like relearn the speed and pacing of the game. One of the things I actually really appreciate about Ultimate was how easy it is to go into a standing attack from a run. Because other games will always do your dash attack, and that's usually a hard commit type of move that you don't want to do when you're moving back and forth, trying to outmaneuver someone.
Yeah, you're stuck. Yeah, no, you can quit. Excuse me. You can abandon it pretty easily in Ultimate.
But yeah, I don't know. It depends what exactly you expect. I think at this point, having had so many characters, it makes more sense to maybe even pare things down and to sort of reinvent the mainstay characters. Because like Mario's going to be in the game, but like Mario's had the cape in his moveset since Melee. And it's like, Mario doesn't even have the cape power up in any of his games now. They kind of went back to the Tanuki tail because they sort of occupy the same space.
He didn't have the cape power up whenever Melee came out.
That's also true.
That was already 2 systems
Super
ago.
Mario World, yeah.
2 systems ago.
Or like Flood.
That's
Flood is still part of his moveset, which was a change that they just never rolled back. It would be interesting. Like,
it's to put Cappy in the moveset or something. Do something different with all of them. Like with, we just had Metroid Dread change up Samus's.
Now there's some things where it's like you expect it, and also that they're what define the character in Smash. Like Captain Falcon's got to have a Falcon Punch. I know it's not in his games, but he's got to have the Falcon Punch. Maybe it works a little differently, but look at what other fighting games have done, right? Where they'll put some new twists on the old characters, and I think that is needed at this point. A lot of people like to speculate about extra modes, but to me, at the end of the day, it's all about the versus mode.
Everybody says they want all these different modes, but whenever it all boils down,
everybody wants Subspace Emissary, but when's the last time you played Subspace Emissary?
Yeah, I don't think they remember it all. Is what they
like the idea of Subspace Emissary.
Well, they like the idea of a single player campaign, and you kind of get that too a little bit with Ultimate. Like, there's a story mode to an extent, but it's a very
and I'm sure they'll come up with new modes, and like probably at least one of them will be really good, and there will be some other ones that like nobody will care about. I always thought Smash would benefit greatly from ARMS multiplayer lobbies, where it freely matches people for different kind of matches using different rule sets.
Yeah.
Because ARMS just did multiplayer better than most other Switch games. But
I think that, and it was pretty early too, which is pretty crazy. I kind of figured we'd get.
I think that's actually how you get more use out of things like coin match or stamina mode. Is just have like a lobby party mode that just shuffles the settings around, because I think most people don't want to set up a coin match, right? But if you're doing really fast ones with kind of a randomizer on it, it makes it more like, oh, we're doing coin match now, okay. And if you don't like coin match, like it's over fast enough that you don't even have time to be upset about it. But yeah, I think as far as the core gameplay, like it is a bit of a tough spot because it's like you can't change it too much because the expectations are so set. But I also think you can't just add more characters because there's already too many.
Yeah, there's too many. I think something has to change and people just have to get over it.
Yep.
It's usually whenever Nintendo's doing their best work, it's like, let me just give you what you didn't know you wanted.
Yep.
Just hang out for a minute.
Well, and it is kind of reassuring too, just looking at the DLC for Ultimate, how many of the new characters introduce just like new subsystems to the game that didn't, like Hero has the whole command menu in there. Like they really went all out to making DLC characters feel honestly kind of premium. And that's why I think they need to go back to the original characters, because characters like Mario have these holdover moves from Smash 64 when they just had to throw things together. When Jigglypuff had to just share animations with Kirby and Captain Falcon had to share animations with Samus, that they've actually put more time and care and attention into representing these third-party characters now that were added later than they have their own. And so I'd be really excited to see all the stuff they could do with Mario, all the stuff they could do with Link, if they want to actually integrate that the way they've handled characters like Steve, that just play completely different and bring in elements of his own game into Smash.
I'm all for it. Turn it over. Just give me something new.
Yep, and we'll always have the N64 game to fire up if we just want that.
If you can handle how slow it is.
Well, there's always Melee.
I will say, like, we need to have it. It's because it's not on the NSO.
No, it's not.
This game would kill like on the NSO app. Like,
just don't get your hopes up for online play. But you could play it locally, and that would be a riot.
Yeah, play it locally, and it would be awesome. Yeah, kind of weird. Like, I don't know why we don't have that one yet. Doesn't make sense to not have it on there.
Give it time. It'll come. Saving it for the annual refresh when most people's subscriptions run out.
That's right. GoldenEye did it. Now we need Smash.
Well, I think that's all it. Any last closing comments for Smash Bros. 64?
Go play it. It's fun. I remember playing the crap out of this game whenever I was a kid. Like, it was always we had Mario Kart. You had what's some other 4-player Diddy Kong Racing, those types of things. But we would always break out Smash at some point, and then it would be the game we played until we were done.
There you go. Well, let us know what you think on the Discord. Share your Smash Bros. Memories. Who knows? Maybe we can get it on NSO. You can start challenging people. Settle all your disputes. Fox only, no items. You can't pick Final Destination in the 64 game. Actually,
nope.
You can only fight Master Hand there. You can't fight other players there.
Yeah. Ugh, Master Hand.
What a great bad guy though, Master Hand.
That's right.
Epic. Well, thank you for listening to the RetroLogic podcast. We are proudly part of the Nintendo Dads family of podcasts, and if you like what you hear, you're welcome to jump into our friendly and non-toxic Discord community. And you can find links to everything in there, and we are working on the website, so stay tuned on that. Until next time, have a lovely rest of whenever you're listening to this, I guess.